At the end of January of this year, Humana's shares dropped 12%, which seems like a drop in the bucket compared to its almost 5x performance subsequent to recently, where it's now gone down to around 3.5x. So the question is, what exactly did the company do to have their shares decline by 12% in January of this month? And is this one of those situations where we could be purchasing a good company at a reasonable valuation, i.e. buying the dip? And so that's what I'm going to dive into. And so let's take a look at what happened. So you can see Humana plunged as healthcare costs jumped and the US is tightening the way that they're paying medical insurers. But when it comes to the healthcare costs jumping, really what they did was effectively they withdrew their 2025 earnings targets. So now, in 2024, they're seeing that they're going to earn around $16 per share, which is just a little bit more than half of what the analyst community was expecting. So it definitely disappointed the analyst community. But the bigger shock here is that they had to withdraw their 2025 target of earning $37 per share. Now, if they were going to earn this $37 per share, you can say that the $355 per share, or I guess $360, which is where the company's trading at today as of the recording of this video, is around 9.5 times earnings. So it's relatively cheap. However, because they only expect to earn, maybe $6 to $10 more per share over the 2024 earnings, really what you're saying is that the company's trading at around 13 or 14 times earnings on the high end, relative to their 2025 earnings, expected earnings. But that's not a bad valuation. And so this is what attracted me to this name and to do a little bit more research. And this is why I'm going to present to you guys a valuation that I have presented or built, that you guys can dive into in detail, because it's just included in the tracker that you guys have access to at that lower tier of the Patreon. So the first thing is, what exactly does Humana do? Well, what they do is, in the US, there's something called Medicare. And what you can do is you can purchase private versions of Medicare benefits for seniors. So there's Medicaid, which is for lower income people, and then there's Medicare, which is health plans, government-sponsored health insurance plans for seniors. And so you can add on to that with private healthcare. And so essentially what's happening in the sector is that it's dealing with regulatory changes, which I'll dive into, but also it's dealing with unprecedented increases in medical cost trends. I don't know if this was unpredictable though, because it seems to me like people are now taking the elective procedures which they have delayed over the last couple of years. And Americans are aging and hospital costs are rising due to inflationary impacts and staffing shortages. So, it's not like we didn't see this coming. We definitely saw it coming in the auto insurance space. And so now we're seeing it here. Additionally, and this is the challenging part, US regulators are starting to crack down on Medicare billing practices that boost insurers' revenue. And what exactly am I talking about? Well, the New York Times published an article where they're saying that the new medical rules being pushed by the US government plans to aggressively audit Medicare Advantage plans for overbilling. Of course, they may the U.S. government might face lawsuits, but there could potentially be a situation where billions of dollars are recovered back from the insurance companies. And one of those companies could, of course, be Humana. And so here's what's happening. The Biden administration made a rule on Monday, this is late January, cracking down on Medicare private plans that have overcharged the federal government. So essentially, they're calling for a more aggressive approach on how plans are audited. And the rule strengthens the ability of the government to audit plans and recover overpayments. And so the first question you would have is, why would the US government want to increase audit oversights of insurers? What exactly is going wrong? Well, there appears to be evidence from government audits and fraud lawsuits and academic analysis that has shown that many plans have been overcharging the government for years. And essentially, they're doing that by exaggerating the health problems of their customers to collect extra payments. And so officials said plans owe the government $475 million in overpayments from 2018 alone. And that's not to suggest that there won't be additional audits over this year. And of course, add the subsequent years to that, and you could potentially be owed billions of dollars. And so there could be some unaccounted for liabilities that these medical insurers have that are not on their balance sheet yet. So you got to be very careful in this situation. Now, my first question was, what does the analyst community think about this? And this was at the end of January. This was the day that the stock price went down. You can see that of the analysts that are covering it, the vast majority are positive on the name. Wall Street does not seem to care that companies like Humana are running up against the US government. I would be worried in this particular situation to be a shareholder. But valuation means everything. And so the question is, can the valuation absorb additional potential government liabilities? And unlike Cardinal Health, which I described a couple of years ago, that ended up being a huge winner because their valuation could absorb it, here we have a situation where I'm valuing the company at around $385 per share relative to its current share price, somewhere around $360 per share, but they have a ton of debt. And in addition to this debt, meanwhile, guys, just FYI, I penalize companies a lot harder for debt than most valuations do, but that's just the way that I operate. I tend to be very conservative when it comes to valuing companies. But notice, I have not modeled in the potential downside of government audit liabilities. I didn't even know where to start with that. But just based on the debt that they have alone, this company's worth maybe $330,000 on a generous terminal multiple. And so I think the company's somewhat overvalued. I just don't see the company running higher than what it's currently trading at, and I see them potentially running into risk from government potential liabilities. However, the upside here is that because they're starting to see higher expenses as a result of people taking more procedures, hospital bills going up, of course their premiums could increase as well. But remember, this is supplemental healthcare insurance that they primarily sell. So if the premiums are too high, people might just not buy the supplemental healthcare. So there might be that give and take here. There's real market dynamics here that could really impact Humana right now, and it's just not something that I think is cheap enough for me at the moment. But I want to know what you guys think. Is this something that you'd be diving into? Historically, healthcare has been very profitable for those who have invested in it. Now, just because I'm not interested in Humana doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't names on the tracker that I'm not interested in. This is an old screen grab of the tracker, so of course the prices have changed a little bit, but there are some names that are trading under 75% of their intrinsic value. Now, from the time that I screen grabbed this, you can see Tencent was trading at around 60% of its intrinsic value. Alibaba was trading around 34% of what I think its intrinsic value is. That doesn't necessarily mean that you may agree, but it's one opinion. And you can get access to that tracker at the lower tier of the Patreon. And like I always say, if you sign up for the Patreon and you decide that there's no value for you, just let me know within the first month and I'll completely refund your money, because the last thing I want to do is take any money from anyone who doesn't find value with our team. But there's over 200 people who are now a part of the Patreon, so I really thank you guys for supporting the channel. And I'll leave it there for you guys. You let me know if Humana is an opportunity that you're diving into, and if not, why are you not diving into this one? And so let me know in the comments below. I respond to absolutely everyone. And so I'll leave it there and I'll see you later.